Hey lady, welcome to the Grit, Growth, Grace podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Anne Marie. I'm wife to James and mom to 4 beautiful kids, plus 1 miscarried baby, from 9 months up to 8 years. My hope is to help other women experience the postpartum period all the way up through the first year of baby's life as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 10. Hey lady, forgive me the cheeky title. I wanted to be sure you'd listen to this episode because I'm going to share a tool I believe that every mom should have in her back pocket. This tool is relevant for any conversation with a healthcare provider, not just your pediatrician. This could be your own OBGYN, the doctor managing your grandma's hospice care, your dad's cancer doctor, etc. This tool will help you communicate in your words, but with their perspective in mind, which is going to allow you to communicate respectfully and effectively so you can get the best care for yourself, your child, your relative. You get the picture. This tool comes from my 10 years of nursing experience, though I didn't have a fancy acronym name for it until fairly later on in that time frame. But it's something I was taught during my time working in an adult intensive care unit, ICU, where, as you can imagine, the stakes were consistently very high, and therefore the tension could run high as well. I want to be clear from the outset about one thing before I share the steps, and it's this. The goal here is not to get my pediatrician or whomever to do exactly what I want. That's not the goal. And the reason that's not the goal is because I might be wrong. I know you can hardly believe this, but sometimes, especially early on postpartum, when the hormones are all freaking over the place, and I'm so excited to be meeting this brand new baby, but also so very tired and perhaps sore, and my big kids are acting out, because they are excited and stressed too, I know you can hardly believe that in that unique and thrilling and stressful state, sometimes it occurs to me to worry about things or blow things up in my mind bigger than they need to be. That's right. Sometimes I worry about things I don't need to. This doesn't happen to you, does it? I didn't think so. Good for you. So we'll just talk about me then. Sometimes, especially in those first couple months, I get scared about something, and I don't know, is this my mom intuition or anxiety? I've heard over and over, trust your gut or trust your mom intuition. But what if your gut is sleep deprived and prone to ruminating in the first place? The crux of the matter is, how do you know whether you can trust yourself, especially your sleep deprived or sore or hormonal or all of the above self? Here's the good news. It's a both and. I can both have a healthy skepticism towards my fears, and I can believe that I am the best person to know when something is wrong with my child. So I can have a healthy skepticism toward my fears, and I can look at them as well and see if there is value and truth in them. I can assess how a concern is impacting me too. That's another way to differentiate between anxiety versus trust your intuition. If whatever this thing is making my heart rate go up and my breathing quicken just to think about it, but there is no visible fire, and by this I mean my baby is not seizing, his lips are not turning blue, there is no obvious medical emergency right in front of my eyes, right now. If that's the case, I've got an inkling that anxiety is playing some sort of role. It might not be the starring role, but it's in a supporting role. So once I've got that awareness that anxiety is hanging around, that doesn't mean I have to ignore whatever the thing is that I'm anxious about. It does mean I can help myself gain some perspective, and part of how I do that is by establishing 1 or 2 trusted people very close to me to be my sounding boards. In my case, one is my husband, and the other is my best friend. I don't invite 17 cooks into my worry tornado kitchen. I invite 1, max 2. I tell them what I'm worried about, and I get their feedback. I know they'll tell it to me straight, and I also trust them enough to be vulnerable with them. I used to do audience surveys, by which I mean spewing my worry on anyone that would listen and offer suggestions, kind of like throwing Jell-O at a wall to see what will stick. You're shocked that wasn't a terribly effective method, aren't you? Okay, so if there's no anxiety and something's tugging at my mom's heart, I'm going to bring that up. But maybe there is anxiety, and by anxiety I mean an overestimation of the danger and an underestimation of my ability to deal with it. And that could manifest in physical symptoms like a racing heart, quick breathing, shallow breathing, or simply it could manifest as ruminating thoughts or worry tornadoes that just spin around and around and around without any resolution. Once I recognize that anxiety is present, I have a choice in how I respond to it. I can recognize it and remind myself that I don't need to shove it down or push it away, because when I do those things, I confirm to myself that I am in danger and that I need to think more about this thing, because I'm reinforcing the anxiety by pushing it away or freaking out about it more. The anxiety course I took encouraged me to actually treat my anxiety as I would a 9-year-old scared of monsters in the closet. I guess maybe 9-year-olds aren't afraid of that, but the developmental level is about right. You would be so kind to a scared 9-year-old, right? But you also wouldn't let him or her drive the bus. So, if there's a concern that's come to mind, and I know that some anxiety is present too, I allow it to be there. I take it with me, but in the passenger seat and not the driver's seat. I've talked to one or maybe both of my sounding boards, and now I'm going to raise some bleep. No, I'm not. Probably I'm not. But I'm going to bring up my concern. How am I going to do it? Here's my tool. It's called CUS, spelled C-U-S. You can use it if your pediatrician isn't taking you seriously, but you can also use it right out of the gate in an appointment or over the phone to help yourself be heard the very first time. CUS, or CUS, stands for concerned, uncomfortable, safety issue, and it represents escalating language to bring up a problem. I'll give an example from when I worked at the bedside in the ICU so you can get an idea of how this works. Okay, I page the doctor, and maybe it's 1 a.m. and he isn't thrilled to talk to me because, well, he has better things to do, like sleep. I start out with C for concerned. Doctor, it's Anne-Marie, and I'm calling about Mr. Jones in room such and such. I'm noticing that he's starting to throw PVCs, that's an irregular heartbeat, frequently, and I know we gave Lasix, a medication that makes you pee a ton, yesterday. I'm concerned, there's the C in CUS, that his potassium is low. Turns out, doctor is tired and annoyed, and he says, I've got labs ordered for 8 a.m. You shouldn't have called. This was a waste of my time. And he hangs up on me. Bummer. So, now I wait. An hour goes by, and the heart monitor for Mr. Jones is looking worse, so I page the doctor again. Doctor, it's Anne-Marie, and I'm calling about Mr. Jones in room such and such. Do you see, my language is exactly the same. I'm repeating myself almost verbatim, and that's on purpose. I called you earlier and told you he was having PVCs, and he got Lasix yesterday, and I was concerned his potassium was low. Okay, I've just recapped what I told him last time. Now here's the next step. He's now having multiple PVCs every minute, and I'm uncomfortable. There's the U in CUS. So I've now used concerned, C for concerned, and U for uncomfortable, C-U. And I'm uncomfortable waiting for 8 a.m. labs. Can I draw a potassium and magnesium level now? But doctor blows me off again. You shouldn't have called. He's fine. We're going to check at 8. And he hangs up again. 1 more hour goes by. Now I'm seeing very regular runs of PVCs on Mr. Jones's heart monitor, and even occasionally a very concerning heart rhythm pattern called V-tach. So I page doctor a 3rd time. Doctor, it's Anne-Marie, and I'm calling about Mr. Jones in room such and such. I've paged twice, originally because I was concerned that he was having PVCs, and then uncomfortable when they became regular, but now I'm seeing consistent runs, and I'm starting to see short bursts of V-tach. This is a safety issue. There's the S for safety issue. So I've used C for concerned, U for uncomfortable, and S for safety issue. Now I tell him what I want. I'd like to draw potassium and magnesium levels now, and I'd like a stat 12 lead EKG. Thank God, doctor has heard the same story 3 times now, and even in his sleep-deprived state, he finally hears me. He gives me all the orders I ask for. Sure enough, Mr. Jones is critically low in potassium, and his magnesium is also low. We supplement both of those, and voila, the heart rhythm problems resolve. Yay, Mr. Jones. If you happen to be an ICU nurse listening, you know this story is a little unrealistic, because likely I'd have order sets to work with as a nurse, meaning there are things that I could automatically happen if certain problems arise. But as a mom, you don't have order sets. You can't just order things automatically for your kid. You need the help of your doctor. And when you need to bring up a concern, you need to know how to CUS. Concerned, uncomfortable, safety issue to get results. Before you call your doctor or you go into that appointment, you need to know, and by know I do mean, please write down someplace on paper or in your phone what it is that concerns you, even if you don't know exactly why. So in my call, I told the doctor I noticed X. Okay, so now you. So you go in and say, Doctor, I'm noticing X in my child. And then you use your C. I'm concerned about this. If you know why you're concerned, you can say that. I'm noticing that she's only gained 6 ounces in the last 2 weeks, and I'm concerned that that's not enough, and maybe I need to supplement formula. But even if all you know is that you're concerned and you don't know why, that's okay. If your doctor takes you seriously and she says, tell me more, or otherwise offers suggestions or takes action in some way, perfect. You only needed to see concerned. But if he or she blows you off, either in that same conversation or a separate one, you can step things up, and you start by repeating yourself. This isn't rude. This is actually you being humble. You're recognizing that the doctor may have other things on his or her mind, and you're giving him or her the benefit of the doubt and helping out by repeating the details. Doctor, I'm concerned about X, and I'm uncomfortable, there's the you, about what could happen if we don't do anything about it. Here, hopefully, your doctor is going to step in and take action, or explain clearly to you why there's no need to do so. But let's say that doesn't happen. Now, in the same conversation, or the next conversation, you're repeating yourself again. Feel silly if you want. It's okay to feel silly, but also know you have every right in the world to advocate for your child until you either get action or a clear explanation as to why there's no need to do so. Doctor, I'm concerned, there's the C, about X. I'm uncomfortable, there's the U, about what could happen if we don't do anything. This is a safety issue, there's the S. Are you willing to be responsible for what happens if we don't do anything? And then be quiet. This should trip and trigger warning bells in your doctor's brain. Now you might be saying, what if my doctor's never heard of CUS or CUS? Even if they aren't familiar with this exact acronym, you are escalating the seriousness of your language, and they know to pay attention when that happens. Now they should do something. Again, this doesn't mean they need to run tests and order medications, etc. But it does mean that if they are not going to take action, they should be giving you a darn good explanation why they're not. And as an aside, if this type of interaction becomes a pattern, and by pattern I mean it happens with 2 or more kids or 2 or more issues with the same kid, I'd love for you to seek out another provider who will be a better fit for you and your children. For the sake of argument, though, let's say he or she still does absolutely nothing. This is rare, I truly believe, but let's say it happens so you know what to do then. If you can get nowhere with a doctor, you need to ask for the charge nurse or the practice manager. This will be the head nurse of the practice or the doctor's office or wherever it is you're at. If you're not comfortable doing that in the conversation, and if you've been ignored essentially 3 times, you might not be comfortable. For whatever reason, you can absolutely call back as soon as you leave the office, and you may well need to leave a voicemail for that person, and then they can call you back. I want to give an example, though, of a case in which I was concerned, but the doctor was actually right. If you listened to part 2 of A Tale of 4 Postpartum Stories, which was episode 3, you heard that my youngest child, my son, who turns 1 this week, came into the world very quickly. And because his birth was treated like an emergency, his umbilical cord, was clamped immediately. Now, a 27 research study found that 1/3 of the total blood supply in the baby circulates through the placenta at any given time. It follows then that if the cord is clamped immediately, the baby may lose up to 1/3 of their blood supply that was circulating through the placenta and be at risk for iron deficiency. Whereas if you wait to clamp, then all of that blood will drain out into the baby. And one obvious sign of iron deficiency can be extreme paleness. Well, my little guy got his cord clamped right away, and within a week, I started to notice that occasionally he would have these episodes where one arm or leg would go completely pale to the point of no color. This was especially jarring to notice in contrast to the whole rest of his body. One time, one leg was completely pale, and the other was a deep, dark purple I saw for just a few seconds as my mother-in-law was holding him. It scared the bleep out of me, in part because I knew that color changes in just one extremity could also be concerning for heart problems. So I brought this up to my pediatrician on several different occasions because it lasted for a long time, by which I mean I saw it occasionally for a period of several months. Each time, he checked my son's pulse oximetry levels in the office. So that probably happened two or maybe 3 times in the first couple weeks of regular checkups. He listened to his heart, he checked his pulses, everything was good, and the screenings for heart problems in the hospitals had all been hospital had all been negative before we got discharged. Later on, though, my son was evaluated in the ER because he had an episode while he was sick where he got really dusky, meaning like purple-gray toes, and I was concerned his oxygen level might be low. So he had an x-ray at the hospital, and all the results came back okay. It just took several months for him to outgrow that. It likely was related to not a heart problem at all, but to his relatively low iron levels from birth. So there wasn't anything we needed to fix, per se, but it was still good for me to bring it up, and it was good for my pediatrician to do the basic things to check it out. This, I think, is the most likely scenario for most situations most of us will run into with our kids. I didn't ever progress past the C for concerned because I believed I was being taken seriously and trusted the pediatrician to take reasonable steps. I'd guess that would be the case for you too, with whatever you need to bring up. But if it's not, if you're not being listened to, and you have a gut sense that something's off, you can full out cuss, concerned, uncomfortable, safety issue, and then involve a third party if necessary. I don't expect this for you, but you've got it in your pocket now if you need it. For our next episode, let's talk about protecting your marriage during postpartum, especially those first few weeks and months. I'll talk to you then.